Hello, hello, hello. How are you, beautiful people? Welcome to Black Girls Do Have Amazing Superpowers. This is your girl, Paula Marie, and welcome to that safe and sacred space where all Black girls get to shine their superpowers out loud unapologetically. Today, I have Raven Waterman. So I'm looking at my notes. Raven Waterman is the owner of RavensWings LLC. She's a psychotherapist, a life and executive leadership coach. Welcome, Raven. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
I am too, because it's like right on time, right? Like we all need to center, focus, and get in touch with all of these emotions and things that have been going on the last few months. So tell me a little bit more about your name. I did not ask you that before we jumped on. Tell me a little bit more. How did you come up with that name?
So Raven Waterman, obviously that's my name. And I liked the idea of incorporating a part of my name, but not the full thing. So wings to me really symbolizes women just being able to reach new heights and being able to go from whatever position they're in life in this moment to that next level. And so it's also a play on my initials, RW.
Okay.
But for me, it just symbolizes what I hope to be able to help women to be able to do.
So you mentioned women. Is that your core demographic audience, women?
Yes, it is my core demographic. I particularly focus on working with professional women who are looking to take charge of different areas of their life. And for me, I know a lot of times people will say, "Oh, but if you're already, professional, then you must be." But so many of us are moving forward in our lives or in our careers, but yet still struggle with feeling unfulfilled in certain ways, or still struggle with understanding what our own unique talents and skills are, and being able to apply that in a way that brings us to fulfillment, right? So I may be in this role, or I may other people may look at me and say, "Oh, well, you're successful in this way," and yet there is something more that I want in life. There is something more that I want for myself, and so that is really who I focus on working
Okay. All right.
with.
And so, where are you located?
I'm in New York. I am in New York. Yep.
So
Hmm.
you are in the heart of COVID-19. Like
Mm.
the belly of it is what it looks like. It may not be that way, but in the news it just looks like that's the belly of where there's a lot of trauma and impact going on with COVID-19. How has that affected your business? Oh, it looks like we froze. Yay, we are back. All righty. So Raymond, I was just asking, has being in New York during this COVID-19 crisis, pandemic, affected your business in any way?
Mhm. It hasn't, in the sense that, so even before COVID, I actually have always offered tele services, so tele mental health,
Mhm,
tele coaching. That was already my business model. So,
mhm.
and I was very intentional about that because I felt that for so many, particularly, for women, because we wear so many different hats, working, taking care of families, all, church obligations, that I wanted to eliminate that stress of having to travel to go someplace in order to meet with me. So in that respect, it's been great because, I didn't really have to pivot like some other businesses did in trying to create a virtual space.
Right.
But I think where it has affected a lot of my clients is higher levels of just anxiety and depression, depressive symptoms, pervasive worry, that, I saw that really was elevated, and we needed to spend a good amount of time working through that and creating plans, self-care plans, and really putting those into action to help them to get through, especially when things were pretty heightened here.
So, if there were listeners and viewers that are experiencing something, some of these things, right? Or maybe they don't know, like maybe they just don't know, what is a way that they can assess if they are indeed experiencing some of these
Mhm. Okay.
issues?
So I actually do have a self-assessment tool, which I know I shared the link with you. So that's a way to just kind of get a baseline of how well you're doing in particular areas and kind of caring for yourself in general. Some things that you can look out for, difficulty, concentrating. That's been a big one where people have a really hard time focusing on a particular task. Your mind may feel like it's kind of racing, and you're just sort of going from one thought to the next. Changes in sleeping patterns. Some people struggle with sleeping in general, but if you're noticing that, wow, I'm getting even less sleep than usual,
Right.
that could definitely be an indicator. Or I'm sleeping a lot more and finding it hard to get myself up and get motivated. Things like not enjoying things that typically you would enjoy doing. So finding that maybe and we talked a lot about physical distancing. I want to make that distinction between social distancing. But physical distancing is that keeping 6 feet apart, limiting, being in groups. We needed to be even more social right now than we probably
Right.
have been before, but just in a different way. But if you're finding that, you really want to just avoid dealing with people, it's just too much, it's overwhelming, you're more irritable, those are all signs that something may be going on. And I think when in doubt, connect with somebody who can help you to figure out, is there something, is this just about right now, situational, because
Right.
it certainly can be, or is this a longer standing issue or symptoms that, and either way, there's ways that you can work through it, right? It doesn't have to be that you sit somewhere and just kind of like deal with it on your own by yourself. That even if you're not sure, speaking to somebody is always a good thing to do.
Okay, because I feel like I'm glad you mentioned that, because so many people, because they feel like this is situational, that this is just, I haven't experienced this before. So once this is over, I'll go back to normal. They
Mhm.
feel like that they don't need to reach out and just get assistance during this. But is there a way that not getting the help you need in this like microcosm of like self quarantine and isolation and feelings of depression can like spiral into bigger things as we step back out into the world and go back to our regular, or whatever our regular lives are going to be post COVID?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, everybody's experience is going to be different, and that is absolutely true. But I think for many people, everything from just how quickly life shifted, how just the heightened fears about physical safety and health. So many people have experienced loss, both directly and indirectly. We're not even sure yet what going back to normal is going to even look like.
Exactly. Yes.
Right? Which is still going to be an adjustment. So many people will not necessarily be returning to be, if you worked in an office space, like working in an office, your work may continue to be more isolated than it was before.
Right.
And so there is it's funny how sometimes people, oh, I wish I could work from home. I wish I could work from home. But this was a loss of all social opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah, and being, and even if we get back into being out of the house more, it's not going to look like that. So you're going to feel that impact of just being more isolated than you have before. And even the loss of rituals, for people who've passed during this time, graduations, weddings, birthdays, all of our rituals around those things have changed. And I think, so while this is situational, the impact of it is yet to be seen, right?
Right.
So rather than waiting until, well, let me see in 3 months how I feel, doing that, starting now to connect and check in and work through this experience is a great time to do it. And then I want to say on the other side, I've had so many people share with me that they've used this time to actually self-reflect and to identify or, focus on what their goals were. So even connecting with a coach and being able to say, okay, I actually have had time to think about what I want to achieve. Let me work with somebody so that I can create a strategic plan and I can actually achieve it. I've been thinking about it for 3 years. Now I'm ready to work on it, right? So that's the other side of the coin too.
Well, you said a whole lot, so I'm gonna back it up. Okay. But then I'm gonna fast forward to the end, right? So I'm gonna back it up to that whole. We wanted to have some downtime out of the office. Mm-hmm. We thought it was gonna be great to work from home, baby. When I tell you about that working from home life. Mm-hmm. Paula is stressed. Paula is stressed. I'm like, the weight of having to be accountable every second of the work day for some is stressful in and of itself. Mm-hmm. First, and when you think about it, you're not even working that much when you're physically in the office. So there's a lot of anxiety that I think is being created in this season just because it is unknown for a lot, and people don't know or have the tools to navigate through it. So to speak to someone and be able to forge a path through it so that the weight is not as heavy. Mm-hmm. Is definitely needed. Mm-hmm. But then you said, fast forwarding to the end point, that this is a time of being still and self-reflection and figuring out who you are, where you want to be, and having some clarity with someone to get some goals done and accomplish some things. Or smell the roses, I think, is even more important of the things you've accomplished. Because as professional women, we're always forging forward, and there's no stop. There's no let's pause. Let's take a deep breath, right? Mm-hmm. Let's revel in what we just accomplished. We don't do that. No. We're too busy walking forward.
Right. It's so true. Yeah, it's so true. I have a group, Women Taking Flight, a Facebook group, and one of the things that I've been focused on and really encouraging is appreciating the journey. And you're absolutely right. We don't, it's always the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And we're not saying, wait, where am I right now? Let me ground myself. Let me enjoy, even when stuff is tough, like, am I enjoying this moment, the toughness? Am I enjoying what I'm doing right now, what I'm challenged, what I'm faced with right now? Right. And we don't. And then you get to the next thing. And I think that also plays into the unfulfillment, because you get to the next thing and you're kind of like, how did I get here? Right. Right. So yeah, this is definitely, giving people that opportunity to you slow down, and do you see the path that you're on? What do you appreciate about it? And what do you want to take from it? What do you want to learn and apply going forward?
Right. Mm-hmm. I want to jump into or transition or journey into the last couple of weeks where we've been seeing a couple of different things going on in terms of racism, civil injustice in the area that culminated or just kind of exploded with watching the death of George Floyd being on replay every time you turn on the news, you turn your radios on in the car. Um, it's like you can't get away from it. And for me, I was so excited to speak with you because as a Black woman, as a mother of boys, right? And we all, I think, have some type of identifying moment in our worlds where we have experienced that to some degree. We know someone if we have not experienced it ourselves. And it creates this bubbling of emotions that we as women don't always know how to process because we're so busy putting one foot in front of the other. We're so busy staying mindful of the goal. We're so busy being the strong Black beings that we are. And I think there's a lot of strength in owning the emotion of what you're feeling. And I was excited to discuss those things with you because I don't know if you're seeing this shift in your clients and how they're handling the situation, but what words can you give us just to be able to take a breath? Because sometimes I find myself holding my breath and I'm not aware of it.
Right. Yes, it's been heavy. It's been really heavy this week. For me personally, yes, as a Black woman, I also have two sons. It's been heavy. Last night, sitting at the table, my 11-year-old asking, you know, seeing a lot of what he's been seeing on TV, but not really understanding exactly, what in the context of what happened.
Right.
And so we were explaining that to him. And I mean, it's just been heavy. And for myself personally and professionally though, how I've needed to show up is to be present and available and to give space to my clients to be able to share what their thoughts and their experiences are around race and identity and social injustice, and and to have that space for them, whatever it is that they needed. But I've also seen it in groups and conversations, and it's a similar sentiment. I think right now for people of color, this is a re-traumatization, right? This isn't, it's something that it just gets triggered whenever you hear about particularly a Black man being killed in police by police. And so but then you also have Breonna Taylor and being shot in her own home.
Exactly.
And so there is and many other stories. I'm only naming two, but we know that there are so many more. And then you have situations where there are the weaponizing of police. Well, you don't tell me your name, I'm calling the police on you. Or you ask me to, put my dog on a leash, I'm calling the police on you. And so when you think about the magnitude of that, I think that it's hard to both succinctly express the emotions that I know I'll speak for myself, I individually experience, but I believe as a community we experience. It's hard to really even put that into words. And I agree with you. What often happens is I felt breathless myself this week. So I would say that one of the first things is the acknowledgement of that. personally, but then also as we do our work, whatever that work is, the acknowledgement of it, the no need to explain it, right?
Right. Yes.
Because I have to tell you, that is part of the exhaustion, right?
Oh,
So being able to get into spaces where our experiences individually can vary, but getting into a space where I'm not trying to convince you that this is real,
that
right?
part. Yes.
Where there is genuine empathy, and willingness to hear, and that is not something you'll find in every space. And so if you're in spaces where you're not experiencing that, being okay to take a step back. I don't need to convince you. It's not my job. If you are open and you really want to understand, then we can have a dialogue. But when I see that it's a but, then I gotta use, I gotta take a step back.
Yeah.
So I definitely think, I want to encourage people to do that. I want to encourage people to understand that what you're feeling is very real, and that it is important to attend to it. So often, I just think in general, particularly for people of color, there's this emphasis on, well, you got to keep going and resilience, and those are beautiful things. But that emotional health is also important, and acknowledging pain or vulnerability, but also hopefulness, right? It's okay to be hopeful as well. Acknowledge that, attend to that.
Right.
And sometimes we're not doing it. We're not doing it for ourselves, right?
Right.
So I just think, that's, I want to, it's so big.
It is. It's huge. But you gave a lot though, because I think for us to, as Black women, we always want to fight and protect and advocate for. Like we do that. That's who we are. We're nurturers by nature, right? And we want everybody to understand that thing. And you just gave me permission to not care if anybody understands it, right?
Right.
You just gave me permission to not have to fight for somebody to understand it. And you gave me permission to walk away from it and to take care of myself, which I don't think we do as Black women. I think we literally want to stay there and we want to fight, and because that's who we are. We're mothers. We bring life into the world, and we bring life into this world with so much trauma, from its inception on our backs. And so the loop of re-triggering, as you spoke of earlier, just gets bigger, and it moves slower. I think the more bodies that we have, it just becomes a lot slower. So I appreciate you giving me personally permission not to explain. And I need to take that, because I am an explainer. I want you to be clear. I want to articulate my thoughts, and I just don't have the energy to do it in this moment of self-protecting myself so that I personally can get through it. And I know that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just about to message you. Okay.
This internet, honey, it bites us, but we're going to get this message out in these streets, honey. So internet, right. Be gone, okay? I was just going to say that I'm glad that the listeners now have a safe place to be able to take the assessment with privacy, to kind of like self-check themselves, and then also to be able to connect with you if they want further services because of the tele appointments that you are able to have with clients all over the world. So they don't have to be in your physical space, especially in this season of social distancing. But because this is what you did anyway, like you were a pro at this tele appointments, it sounds like.
Yeah. So what I want to share, just two things because I didn't get to say this before. I know when we
Okay.
talk about, especially again, what's happening right now for Black women, a lot of the focus is on that experience of, being a mother and the fear that you have for your sons. So I just want to add one point that I think we also are ourselves regularly experience microaggressions, right? We regularly experience that trauma of the fear and the worry, and of course, if you the loss of a child, or nephew, meet the like, well, yes, and then also what is your own experience and what are you walking through every day and day to day.
Right.
So wanted to just highlight that. And clarify. So what I think has been actually a wonderful thing is, as a therapist, right, in my role as a therapist, I can, because I'm licensed in New York, I treat people in New York. As a coach, though, I can, see people wherever. So that allows, and certainly different focuses, but does allow for broader reach. But right now, because of, the pandemic and so many services going virtual, it's, mental health treatment is even more accessible to
Right.
people than it ever has been, because more
Absolutely.
therapists have switched to online platforms, and offering virtual services that they had not been doing before. And there's different ways that you can find providers through your insurance if you're insured, but also through different sites that you can kind of learn a little bit about the provider before you even set up something. And many, like myself, will do a free consultation. Try it out. Try people out. Just don't assume that it's the first one out the gate's got to be it. You may not connect immediately, and that's
Right.
okay, right? But don't give up. It's okay. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna step on that and then I'm gonna go backwards because
Mhm.
again, you gave a whole lot.
Mhm.
Um, our listeners and viewers want to know how to connect with you. We don't care about everybody else in the world. And you know why? It
Mhm.
is I see a therapist, so I am a big advocate of therapy. I shared with you before we jumped on that my oldest son was killed at the age of 18. It's been 10 years, and 10 years I've been in therapy. It started off with my son, my youngest son, who was 5 or 6 at the time, and helping him to figure out how to sort through that grief and that trauma. But I learned through that process that I also was when you take your children into therapy, it's never just your children alone. It's
Right.
you and your children, right?
Mhm.
I benefited so much from it that I kept my therapy sessions going. But it is so difficult, and I think the audience will agree, to find African American female therapists that are out there. It's very difficult to find. And so now that listeners are seeing you and connecting with you, I'm sure that there's a sense of likability and connectivity that they are experiencing with you that they would want to pursue further.
Mhm.
Is there a way for um, our listeners who may be seeking female African American therapists to be able to locate those? Is there an organization or a website that you may know of?
So I am myself enlisted on Psychology Today, where you are able to search by your area. You are able to see profile pictures. You are able to people share, what is their approach to therapy, and so that's a way to kind of actually, it's almost like almost feel like a meet and greet, right?
Right,
Because
right,
you can
right.
kind of
It's like
see
the
somebody.
Facebook of therapists,
Right,
right?
exactly. So that's one way. I know that I have seen there's a Ayana, I think, is a new virtual platform for Black therapists. So that's another platform where you're able to actually go and find therapists of color that you can connect with. And I am actually seeing more and more. Even groups for therapists of color where we're able to do referrals amongst ourselves as well. So I might have somebody who reaches out to me that it needs support, and I'm not able to meet with them for a particular reason, but I'm plugged into networks where I'm able to say, I have somebody who's looking for somebody, some very general information, and connect people that way. So I think referrals is a big part of this as well.
Okay.
We have to be willing and able to refer between ourselves also. But I do want to say thank you for sharing your story, because I so encourage people to do that, to share what their experiences are, so that we can begin to be more comfortable seeking that support and that help.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I think that after listeners and viewers see this, I want them to be empowered with the tools and the resources they need. So if it's not now, whenever, they still have access to those tools. So you gave me homework to do. I gotta figure out where Miss Ayana's website is, because you dropped that nugget. And I'm also gonna put the link to, is it Psychologist Today?
Psychology Today. I can actually, I'll share my link for my profile, so that, you know, if
Okay.
anybody wants to check that out, they can. But it, you know, obviously you can search for different providers, and you know, it's a pretty big, broad network, so it's pretty good.
And I'm sure listeners would love to stay connected with you. So I'll also place the link to your Facebook group in the description as well, because I will join it. I am actually going to jump on as soon as we finish this interview, because I want to stay connected with women that want to stay connected with themselves. And so I feel like those women, even when we go through things, we always it takes a tribe to be able to like pull yourself out of it. And we need tribes during this time of social distancing and isolation, and just the journeys that we're going through emotionally. Is there anything else that you want to say before I ask my last question, Miss Raven?
Just that I have so enjoyed this conversation with you. Thank you
Thank
for this, for
you.
creating this space, putting your voice out there. It's just immense and immensely appreciated. So, and I love your shirt there.
Girl,
I
yes,
like that.
bought it on Etsy, honey, like years ago. Thank you. Well, look, my last question for you. What is your superpower?
My superpower is my belief in the power for us all to achieve mental health and wellness. Because I believe that, I am encouraging and creating that space for other women. I am saying to other women, as I've had to say to myself, that it is okay to want and to need more in life, and that what you're feeling and what you're going through does not in any way take away from the wonderful person that you are and that you can be. So I think that my superpower is dispelling a lot of the perceptions and stigmas related to mental health, and just doing my part to try to change that narrative.
I'm comfortable. You're doing it. I am so proud that we linked up and we were able to connect. There are no accidents in how we intersect with people. And I am so happy that on this day we were able to connect and share, and hopefully help our listeners and our viewers be able to get the resources that they need, feel better about the feelings that they're feeling, and stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you so much, Miss Raven, for jumping on and sharing your superpowers today. Really appreciate it.
Same here, same here.
Well, it's another episode of Black Girls Do Have Amazing Superpowers, that safe and sacred space where Black girls all over the world get to share their superpowers unapologetically, sprinkling all over the universe. It's your girl, Paula Marie, and stay safe. Bye.